Okay, welcome back. So this is the fourth video lecture on the topic of politics. And I believe in the last video lecture, I tried in a very clumsy way to describe some of the differences between the European political system and the United States political system. That probably won't show up on a quiz, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But it's worth knowing that the systems are different and that what we have is a winner-take-all system, right? And Europe has more than two parties, and it's considered a proportional government, where ours is basically only two, right? And yeah, okay, so that's good enough. Hopefully you got this stuff from your civics class when you were back in high school. There is actually a move in the state of Kansas for every high school graduate to take a civics test in order to get their high school diploma. I'm a little old-fashioned. I think that's not a bad idea. And I say this because, I really appreciate the political process. I really appreciate the process of voting. And I spend on election days, I actually work the polls. I'm one of the county poll workers. So I sit there and check people in and make sure that if in the Riley County we use voting machines. And I remember one woman coming in, and it was a primary election. And in the primary election, in the state of Kansas, we do have three parties in the state of Kansas. We have the Republicans, the Democrats, and the Libertarians. But you are in a primary, you only get to vote for the people who are running in your party. So if you are a registered Democrat, you can only vote Democrat. If you're a Republican, you only vote Republican. And this woman came in and she was registered as a Republican and did not want to vote Republican. And she did not understand that this was the primary election. And I am a big believer in voting, but I remember thinking that I wished she would have known more about the political process. But I also think that part of that responsibility falls on people like myself who are teachers. So that is one of the reasons that I am covering this chapter and have made a commitment to cover it as every chance that I get, because it is important to understand so that when you go to the polls, we know what we're doing and we know how the process works. So again, hopefully you got this in your high school civics class. We have the executive branch. So we have a system called checks and balances. And the idea is that neither one of these branches is more powerful than the other. And they can check up or make sure that the other branch isn't doing something illegally. So your executive branch, which would be your president, and then your president has underneath them, they have a vice president, and then they have a small, like an executive committee. They have a small group of cabinet officials. And this is really quite brilliant if you think about it, because there's no way that the president can know everything. And all of those cabinet officials are sort of like the chairs of all the other committees, and they bring information and ideas and advice to the president. In the judicial branch, and the idea is that the judicial branch is supposed to be nonpartisan. You're not supposed to be Democrat or Republican or Libertarian. And there are some who are saddened by how this branch is becoming politicized. I believe the Department of Justice, I'm not sure if the Department of Justice comes under the judicial branch, but the Supreme Court. And these two are, they have relationships with each other. The President of the United States nominates candidates to the Supreme Court. When you are a candidate, judge on the Supreme Court, that is a lifetime job. You stay on it till you die. It is supposed to be a nonpartisan body, but that's difficult to be nonpartisan if it's a Democrat or a Republican president who's nominated. Then the Congress is the third branch, or the legislative branch. I do think some of the language here is a little confusing. Congress actually refers to two separate bodies. One is called the House and one is called the Senate. If you visit Washington, D.C., which is a fascinating city, I hope you get to go. You have a chance, you will see the Capitol building, and they have over on one end, they have one side of the building, they have the chamber for all the House of Representatives. On the other side, they have the chamber for the Senate. I believe the Senate sometimes is referred to the upper chamber and the House of Representatives. And that is because, as I'll show you in another slide, each state gets 2 senators, but you get more representatives based on your population. So the Congress has to approve the candidates or the nominees to the Supreme Court that get appointed by the president. So they work together, but the idea is that neither branch has more power than any other. The legislative branch makes the laws, the executive branch signs the laws, and the judicial branch can say, oh, you can't have that law. I mean, it's not quite that simple. That's kind of the idea of the checks and balances model. It's a very slow process, right? Changes to the law or to the national law are very slow. So this is an illustration that talks about the different branches of Congress, the senators, and what some of the qualifications are. This would be a great quiz question. This would be a great quiz question. So basically the upper chamber, which would be the Senate. Remember, the Senate only gets 2. Every state, regardless of its population, only gets 2. So there are 100 people in the Senate, and the tiebreaker is the vice president. So right now, Kamala Harris she would be the chair, or she was the president of the Senate. And when you hear people talk about tie breaking, that's because I want to say the Senate is like almost exactly 50-50. 50-50 Democrat, 50-50 Republican. So she could break the tie. You have to be 30. This one is only for, I always get that confused. This is a 6-year term, right? And you have to have a place of residence. So you can have a house, you can own property in the state in which you're representative. And what's it say? You have to be a citizen for 9 years. The lower chamber is the House. The House, the people are elected based on how many years, based on the population. We have, that's on another slide, I believe we have 4. We have 4 representatives based on our population. You only have, that means, I don't actually know how many people are in the House. The Speaker of the House, though, is it still Nancy Pelosi? She used to be the most powerful woman in American politics until Kamala Harris was elected vice president. And so she's like the president of the House, except they don't call her president, they call her speaker. 25 years old, only been a resident of the United States for 7 years, and you have to actually live in the state with what you represent, in what you are representing, and that is a 2-year term. So we have more representatives who roll over each year than we do senators. I mean, I think you can see the older age limit. You have to live in the state longer. The terms are longer, terms are shorter. You can kind of see how they get this idea that one is an upper and a lower chamber. So this is who is currently representing the state of Kansas. The 2 senators, remember every state gets 2, are Tracy Mann and Jerry Moran. Both of them have R's after their name. I just saw Tracy's office somewhere around here. Sorry, so these guys go to the Senate. That is the body that Kamala Harris is the president of the Senate. That is the one that's considered basically 50-50. The House of Representatives, though, the map here is the districts. You're going to hear in the next couple of years, you're going to hear a lot of talk about redistricting. There's another term called gerrymandering. And I don't understand how all of this works. I don't understand how the lines get drawn, but redistricting is about how do we decide. So all of this green space here, this is all one district, and that all of those people are represented by one person, and that is Roger Marshall. In this part over here, the little 3, this is the 3rd district. And these people are represented by this woman named, oh my goodness, Sharice Davids. She's the only Democrat representing the state of Kansas in Washington, D.C. And when we redraw these lines, it can influence how, based on population distribution and how the people are registered to vote, you can influence and predict if that district is going to vote more Republican or more Democrat. For instance, Riley County, which is where I live, this county right here, almost always votes blue, almost always votes Democrat, right? But because all these other counties vote red, so if you were to shift this count, if you were to put this with more blue counties over here, then it might influence the result of all of these other people. Does that make sense? So if you put together a bunch of red counties, you can count on those red counties, that group, that district going red. If you put together a bunch of blue counties, like you could argue is happening over here in Kansas City, then you can count on that district going blue. That's what's meant by redistricting. Gerrymandering is when you do that with a calculated political outcome in mind. Okay, I hope that makes some sense. This slide is a little bit, and I wasn't going to get into all the specifics because there's way more people, but the same way in Washington, we're represented based on this district, the same thing is happening in the state of Kansas. And we have a house in Topeka. There are 2 chambers. You have the House of Representatives, or and then you have the Senate. Each district, and this is the district lines in the state of Kansas, gets 2 senators and then their number of representatives based on population. So you can find Saline, look at that. Saline County is in its very own district. So you have 2 people in the House of Representatives, or 2 people in the Senate, in the Kansas Senate, representing Saline. Saline County representing Salina, and then I don't know how many representatives you have. But you can look that up by clicking this link right here, and I'll actually put it in. In your Canvas. Maybe I'll make an assignment and ask you a quiz. Oh, here you go. Here's your House of Representatives. My bad. It's a little different. The representatives are broken down. You have 125 districts. We only have 107 counties in the state of Kansas. 207 counties. So the state of Kansas is broken down to 125 districts. Currently, 2/3 of them are Republican, 1/3 of them is Democrat. Let's see, where is Saline County? Yeah, right here. So Saline County is broken up into a couple different districts right here. So I'm from Riley County is broken down into a bunch of different ones too. So like on one side of Manhattan, you might be represented by Representative Carlin. On the other side, you might be represented by Tom Phillips in the same town. So those get broken down, kind of funny. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because these next couple topics are pretty important, and I have already gone over 10 minutes. Yeah, stop right there.